So I'm Caroline Means, and my husband is John Means. He's a left-handed pitcher. We have two little ones. Our son McCoy is about to be 5, and our daughter Madden is 7.5 months old, about to be 8 months, which was super interesting having an in-season baby. But John was drafted by the Orioles in 2014, and he was with the Orioles until through the 2024 season. So he spent all 7 years in the big leagues with them and 4 years in the minor leagues with them. So he was with them about 10 years. And then last year he signed with Cleveland and spent the year with Cleveland rehabbing his second Tommy John, which went awesome. We had such a great experience. And we loved Baltimore too. I mean, we were there a really long time. Those relationships, they just run so deep and they become family, as you know. And so we adored Baltimore and we had a wonderful time in Cleveland last year. He is a free agent this year. And so we're on that journey again. And it's been great. And it's been nice to have what we were calling a normal off season after the last few years have been really wild.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so free agency might be something that's not familiar to like some of the
Mhm.
people that are watching this or reading this. So, as a family of faith, like how do
Mhm.
you guys navigate this true, like we always called it like faith for the next day? Like it's just
Yeah.
you're like anticipating something, but then you also
Mhm.
know like if nothing happens, then nothing happens. And yeah, so like tell us a little bit about how you guys navigate this, how you're feeling, how John's
Mhm.
feeling. Yeah, just a little bit about that.
I think that last year being the first time in free agency and coming off Tommy John was just wild because we had no idea what to expect. We were hopeful that a team would take on the end of that recovery process, and we felt confident that they would. But you never know, like you said. And so I would say last year, right around Christmas time, we were walking into church feeling hopeful, but a little bit heavy. There's just so many emotions about leaving an organization that you have been with the whole time. It's very rare. We know that to be drafted by a team and then spend all of your major league years before free agency with them. And like during that time, not being sent down. And so going through those 7 years, 6+ years before you're a free agent, just all in one was wild with his back to back Tommy Johns, essentially back to back. And so we were very hopeful, but I would say probably collectively we didn't feel a strong amount of peace. We wanted to feel peace. But then, as you know, with free agency, and I would say last year was kind of a weird free agency year too. There were some incredible players that went without a team for a while into the season and into spring training. And it was kind of an interesting season for us because we were also trying to sell our house that we lived in Texas.
Oh,
And that was becoming a bit of a burden because we had moved back home to Kansas City. Kansas City is home for us. John's from Kansas. I'm from Missouri. So we were home, but we had this sense of not feeling settled because we had made this big decision to leave Texas
mhm.
and come back home, which we knew we would always do, but it felt like God's timing with me at the time being pregnant. And I just joked, I said, I think we're going to get 2 contracts in one day. Like, we're going to sell this house and you're going to get a call. Like, our life has been so weird and wacky. I wouldn't even doubt that it happens on the same day. And lo and behold, the same week, I think it was technically like 72 hours apart. We sold the house and he got a call from Cleveland. And then that was, I want to say he got the call Thursday night or something, and he was gone on a plane Monday morning.
Yeah, it
And
happens
so
so quick. It's like
it
you're
does.
waiting and you're almost like your bags are packed, but you have no idea where you're actually going.
Totally. And at the time I was pregnant. And so we knew that if I came out to Arizona, it would be short lived. And then we would be coming home. It was like now we also had the answer that he could not be there for the birth of our daughter. So
Oh,
it was just this very weird season of a lot of unknowns. And we were flying by the seat of our pants, even more so than
yeah.
we had in the past with baseball. Like in the past, it was like, we know we're going to Sarasota. We know we're going to Baltimore. And those first few years in the big leagues, it was like, is he getting traded? You know, you always have that in the back of your mind as July gets closer. But that first time being free agents, I think it was just like, in a sense, you have less control than ever, especially knowing he was coming off of an injury. Like, we know he's healthy and we know that he feels good, but you also know at the same time teams just might not want to take that risk. And so I would say like Cleveland was such an answered prayer because they had such a wonderful reputation for taking care of pitchers and elbow injuries, specifically rehabbing guys. And but it really grew us leaving Baltimore and leaving what felt known and comfortable. But like you said, like trusting that God has something better for you.
Yeah, I know. And it's also, I feel like, a strange transition because you came in as the younger, right, with the Orioles, and you like grew into the older, and now a transition as a veteran guy or like someone that
Mhm.
is leading the team and leading the charge, and then you equally in the stands. Was that like hard, easy?
It was a bit of both. I would say kind of the similar thing. Like in Baltimore, we felt known. You know, people like know your heart, they know your intentions, they know your personality. And then when you switch teams, there is a bit of like reliance on reputation and hoping that your reputation is good and people are um, going to accept you with open arms. But it was one of the first things that I did was kind of check the roster of age
Yeah,
because
yeah.
Baltimore, like you said, he came in young, like one of the only rookie starters, and then, you know, had a great rookie season, but it was such a veteran presence team.
Hmm.
And then it did a 180 to where like he was the longest tenured Oriole. Everybody was super young. And I even remember like I had this watershed moment. Someone asked me for a birthday cake recommendation for a 21st birthday. And I was like, oh my goodness,
Right.
21st birthday. And so we watched that happen. And then when we went to Cleveland, it was almost kind of nice to come in as one of the older women because I was like, I can focus on the kids and whatever else I have to give, then I can invest. And those girls were so sweet and they were also really young. And it was cool because the way they did it there, it's so family oriented. Coaches and players' families are really integrated. And so I felt extremely comfortable coming in and I think that's you just once again, you never know.
Yeah.
And they were so kind to the kids. Like McCoy, our son, is extremely outgoing. I want to say it was like by the third game we went to, the girls had nicknamed him the mayor. And
Oh,
so I'm like,
fair.
as a mom, when your kids are being like loved on, attended to, and they totally called it, they knew him
Yeah.
off the bat, it took away any anxiety about that because really like if the kids are good, mom is good,
Yeah.
dad is good. Like I
Yeah.
think people, maybe not people because we're in it, but I think that maybe the business side of baseball underestimates what that can do for a player. Like knowing
Yeah.
his wife and his kids are like good on the daily, on the road or in the stands, and I think that just brings a sense of comfort. And we had that there. We really did, and it was fun because there was a playoff run, which was
Yeah.
so cool.
Cool.
And so that was fun because going through that with the Orioles in 23 as kind of like one of the older wives, you know, the fun stuff like getting girls to get together before the playoff game or
Mhm.
get matching playoff gear, which is
Yes,
super
the gear.
fun.
Oh my
It
gosh.
is, it's fun. And
It's
so
so
that
fun.
was really sweet. We did like playoff sweaters from like a local girl that I'd met
Oh,
who also
awesome.
had a baby. So like woman owned business, mom, local.
Heck
And
yeah.
so it was just a very sweet season for us. And like being postpartum, it was such a blessing knowing that I could easily come to the game with a baby and like have a space where I could just feel safe with her. And so we're so grateful for that season. It was such an answered prayer. And we definitely grew because we were apart longer than we've ever been apart. There was about 7.5 weeks where we were apart from John after I had Madden.
Okay. Okay.
Um, and so that grew us, and that was um, just also affirmed to us how important it is for us to be together as a family, even if it's tough.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's something that I would say, like going into this next season, we've already committed. Like we're going with John wherever that is, whatever that looks like we're going to make it work because that's what's best for us.
Hmm. I love that. Okay, so we're gonna shift a little bit from
Mhm.
you can still whatever comes up, baseball or not, but the the heartbeat behind these interviews, being married to the
Mhm.
game, is I have found a lot of redemption, healing through just the power of sharing your story and your
Mhm.
experiences. And I genuinely believe that, especially as women married to these pro athletes, like
Mhm.
it's all about them. They're the shiny Swiss car, that people are like oohing and ahhing over. But the wives are the engines, right? Like we're the thing that keeps them going.
For
And
sure.
that's not to toot our own horn. That's not to
No.
put attention to ourselves. That is just the reality of our life. And Daniel, I mean, he's still in the game. He's coaching college baseball now, but this is our 16th or 17th year.
Wow.
And I just have like heart, obviously, for um, women in baseball, women who are married or supporting pro athletes and their big careers, and just shifting the spotlight. Like, let's just um, take the attention off of the player and put it on the spouse because women in especially baseball, I know, are like brilliant and they are a force to be reckoned with. And I really believe that there is a special call on their lives. Like it takes a unique woman to be able to be married to a pro athlete. And
Yeah,
then that pro baseball player, like 160 games a season, no, like very few off days. And then it's very comical that you're married to a lefty pitcher because
I
I
know.
was too. And
Yeah.
I feel like that's just like its own sector. Like,
It is. They're weirdos.
what are the weirdos?
They are. I don't know. It's like it didn't take me as long to learn about baseball as I thought it would because I started at ground level. Like we were a football family. I did not know anything about baseball. I,
Okay.
and sitting in the minor leagues at games, I'm like 15th inning. I'm like, can we just like
Done.
be done?
Yeah.
Can we just call it a
Mercy. Yeah.
tie? Pick this up tomorrow? And so it definitely like, yeah, they're weirdos,
Yeah.
especially the starters. I'm like,
Yeah. You
it's
gotta
just
you gotta have some weird in you.
mhm.
But you, I mean, can you tell us a little bit about your own athletic
Yeah,
background? And then
definitely.
I would just be curious to know, like, how has that played a role in being married to a pro athlete as well?
Mhm.
Like, is there times where you deal with like envy or,
Mhm.
they're still living out their dream and yours
Yeah.
is over? So, yeah, walk us through a little bit about
Okay.
that and tell us about you.
Yes. So John and I met it 10 years ago, and was coming off of my rookie year of my professional career. I played soccer. I went to USC, Southern California. Some of us who are petty joke that that's the real USC because I know a lot of Southern Carolina people like to say that. So I have to like reiterate Southern California. Fight on. So I played at USC, and it was interesting being in California growing up in Missouri. I was a pastor's daughter, oldest child, very stereotypical, like anything that comes to mind, except for type A. I'm not type A. I'm type B, like to a fault that I frustrate my type A friends. Um, but we met after my rookie year. I was couch surfing, no lie. I couch surfed a lot. When I left the home, due to like different circumstances, my parents were divorced and like both working and trying to kind of like build a new different life and what that looked like. I didn't have a lot of support from home, and so I was kind of out on my own, and I had some amazing friends and their parents who, yeah, let me literally couch surf. And so we met through another baseball player. And so that year I was coming off of, like I said, my rookie season in Seattle, my first like just year of being like a big girl adult out in the world on my own. And I wholeheartedly thought that God's call on my life was to be a famous goalkeeper. I had played behind Hope Solo in Seattle, and I thought, this is what God is calling me to do. I sat behind her to like take in all this knowledge and experience. That year, the United States won the World Cup, and those were my teammates. And we went and watched them play in Vancouver. And then when they came back from winning the World Cup, like I was just in one of the most competitive and intense environments I'd ever been in my entire life. I grew up playing on the USA youth national teams and going through those camps. And so I had an abnormal high school. I would be gone for 2 weeks at training camp, back for a week. I mean, God bless my math teacher. She was just like, here, like,
Shout out math
that's
teacher in
literally like,
Missouri.
take it, like, you did the work, like, okay, sure. And so, I mean, like, I literally like majored in soccer and college as well. I majored in psychology, but like, once again, you're gone all the time. Thank God for the tutors that were patient with me and helped me as well. But I thought that was my call.
Mm.
And I felt like I was the main character in my story and other people's, and developed like a little bit of an ego and pridefulness in what my body was capable of doing. And then I signed with the New Jersey, New York team. They're now called Gotham FC. At the time, they were called Sky Blue, and they were out of New Jersey at the time. And I proceeded to have the worst year of my life. I was having issues with my health that I couldn't figure out. I was in a really toxic environment, soccer wise, from the ownership to the coaches. And it really sucked my joy out of playing. And like through a lot of things, like I got benched, and really all I could focus on was like, God, why is this happening to me?
Mm.
And I've already learned this lesson. God, my identity isn't in my sport, it's not in being a starter. Like, I just was so resentful. And it took me leaving that environment and going and being humbled even more and playing for Orlando as a backup and not a starter, and stepping into that role. And I remember I actually, which this is so funny, I read David Ross's book before this season in Orlando. And in it, he talked about what his role was as a backup and as an older guy and as someone who wasn't getting all of the playing reps. And he talked about, this stuck out to me, greeting his teammates every day. And so when I was in Orlando, I was like, I'm going to greet everybody every day. I'm going to focus on the player, the person, not the player.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just going to try to see what God has for me, because I want to feel really good about if this is my last year playing soccer. And it was my last year. I suffered way too many concussions, unfortunately, and had doctors telling me I needed to be done, which was really smart. But that was the most enjoyable year of soccer for me, because I felt like I got what God was trying to get me to see. And that is, the player is not as important as the person. What you do is not as important as whose you are.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned that lesson, and I stepped into coaching, and that also happened to be John's rookie year. And I struggled. I was so envious and so jealous of him. And we were like in our season of engagement, and I felt this tension. Like, it wasn't all the time. Honestly, it was just like, if I wouldn't even say it was complaining, but just like he had, a rougher day, or just wanted to confide in his future wife of all people. And I'm sitting there like, oh yeah, it was hard in your 5-star hotel. And
Yeah.
he's like, okay, like, and which is so sad, because it's like, if he can't talk to me, who's he going to talk to?
Yeah.
And so I totally struggled his rookie year with like some serious envy and regret of retiring, even though I knew God called me to that.
Mm-hmm.
And lo and behold, we ended up having a really difficult second part of that year, because John's dad got terminally ill. He was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And so we were physically together, and I'm like, okay, God, maybe this is why I'm here, is to be with him and walk through this with him. And so definitely throughout his career, there's been ups and downs for him. But I think that that year in 2019 and 2020 taught us so much. And then in 2021, just like, I would say playing a professional sport was a strength and a weakness for us in our marriage, depending on how I wielded the
Yeah.
weapon.
That's good.
Sometimes it was for sure. Um, I would say on the one hand, you kind of have that feel and you know what to say, when to say it, and when to shut up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been refined over the last decade though, because there are some times where, you know, he'll ask me my opinion and I'll give it and then that spurs a conversation. Or sometimes it's knowing to not talk about the game and we need to just like family time or go out to eat
Mm-hmm.
or just shut the brain off and watch a show or go on a walk. Like I
Mm-hmm.
think you just learn your husband as a person, like we've talked about, and a player because we see everything. Like I am confident that I'm his number one fan because I have
Mm-hmm.
seen every behind the scenes moment. Um, and I think coming from being a professional athlete, the way my career ended has been really great for us to talk about when this ends for you and not shying away from that conversation like we used to.
Yeah.
Because I think that, like we talk about, not everybody gets the Kershaw exit. Like
Yeah.
we used to call it like the Abby Wambach exit or the like, there's so many people who get to walk off as a champion and a hero and off of a victory. And so that's not the case for like, that's the few.
Yeah.
So many are ended by injury or getting cut
Mm-hmm.
or never getting picked up. Um,
Yeah.
or suffering a loss. And I think that has been a conversation that we can have without taboo, where those first few years you're like, we're just talking about service time. We're just talking about this week, next month, you know, we just got to get through 3 years. We just got to get through arbitration. You're just always like looking forward in anxiety
Yeah.
if you don't root yourself back like in what God has for you. And I think me going through that and struggling so much when my sport ended has given him like kind of an outlet to talk about it, but also I think it just takes away the power and the fear of it. Like
Yeah.
this is the shortest part of our life. Unless you're Philip Rivers and you're 44 and you're like playing again, like what is that is just the wildest thing ever that he's back.
That is.
He's a grandfather.
Daniel told me about that last night. I was like, wait, what? He's like, yes.
There will be no baseball player grandfathers again. I think
No,
Nolan is like the last one. Like no,
no.
we're never gonna see it. Well, I don't know. Who knows?
Who knows? Yes.
But I think that's like a really big piece of it is being able to talk about the hard parts of it, or just listening and him knowing I understand. Because
Mm-hmm.
I think you do explain baseball to a lot of people as a baseball wife and player, and it does get exhausting. Like, oh, where are you going to be? Like, well, why are it's like,
Yeah.
we live three places, or no, we don't buy everywhere. Yes, we could get cut in any minute. No, we don't have income this year. Yes, we have income till next month. Like it's, I think a lot of people, don't get me wrong, the money they make, like you really cannot complain, especially right now, like things happening in
Mm-hmm.
society. But our hard is still our hard. And I think that's fair. You can say, like, yeah, it is really hard that he saw his newborn daughter for 2 days and then had to leave for 8 weeks. That's hard. But on the flip side, one of my best friend's husband was deployed and
Mm-hmm.
he can't come if there's an emergency. She can't call him in the middle of the night when she's struggling. And so there's always perspective. And I think God affords you that perspective to live in a generous state and in a grateful state. Honestly, like we hold this baseball life, I would say, with open hands more as I sit here than we ever have. And I
Mm-hmm.
hope that continues
Yeah.
is my prayer.
Yeah. And I think there's so much power in it's a true gift to know that you're living in perhaps the most powerful part of your testimony in
Mm,
the last days of your career. Like
yeah.
because that's what people are going to ask you about. Like they're not going to ask you about the strikeout of whatever game, whatever in the postseason. Like they're going to be like, I need help because I feel like I'm on the precipice of what you are walking through or about to walk through.
Mhm.
Like take all the notes for me and give me God's honest truth about it because the reality is, um, it's like Don Christensen will say, it's like something staggering 70% of pro athletes end in bankruptcy and like
Yeah.
a decade after they're done playing or something.
Mhm.
It's absolute insanity.
Yeah, and the divorce rate is,
Yes.
50 to 70% in sport. I think it even jumped in like jumped to 80% at one time, which is just
Ugh.
horrifying because so much of that is caused by hurt and pain that I think if people leaned into the experiences and the wisdom that other people have, it can help you before you get to that point. Not always, but and I think that's something we prayed for a while was we wanted older mentors. We wanted an older couple to help us because in 2020 when we lost his dad, we were like, who's gone through this?
Mm,
Like who can we talk to that is a pro athlete on the precipice of having his first child and just lost his dad and like who do we you know who do we talk this through with, how do we work this out, and it was isolating, and so that's like one thing, a part of our testimony as a couple, that we're like, you never know who's walking through loss in a season, and it will happen. It could happen to us again. And like, God gives you, I think, those experiences, just like in the Bible, these testimonies and these losses and messes are the message of hope that God gives us. And it's like, well, he brought you through that. So what won't he bring you through? And I think that's kind of where we've landed. And like this, like I said, this free agency, this baseball thing just doesn't feel as heavy. Knowing that, like David Platt said last year, like God knows what locker room you're going to walk through. He already knows.
mhm,
And he knows when your last day is walking in and out of a clubhouse. And he already knows, he's already been there. It's already written. Rest in that.
mhm, mhm.
Rest in that. It's not a surprise to him. And I think that is hard when you're playing and you want to spot, but I think it's the place that if your heart is like resting in the back of your mind, then you can just live more freely with it.
Mm, I love that. We have, it says like a little less than 10 minutes. And if I get kicked off, I can just create another Zoom link. And
Okay.
if it awkwardly stops, we can end it. But I try to not upgrade to pro just for sake of
Yeah, for sure.
everyone's time. Cause I'm like, this is busy.
Yes.
Um, but this, like our interview it'll be the first one of 2026. So it'll like kick
Cool.
off the new year. So with that kind of in mind and talking about like just New Year resolutions
Mhm.
or looking forward to the next year, I know that you guys don't even know where you're going to be yet, and that's fine. But this is kind of a two-part question. One is either like, what is the scripture that anchors you, or the scripture that's like your life verse or your family verse? And then the second part of that is because this is an interview about Carolyn. What uh, I just like read this post the other day that talks about how Jesus asks 7 times in the Bible, "What do you want?" And it's not to embarrass or shame. It's because he already knows your heart, but he needs you to name the thing that you know that you want, because there's so much power in naming things. Like,
For sure.
Mary Magdalene didn't know that it was Jesus until he said her name when when she saw the empty tomb. Like, he had spoken to her
Mhm.
before, but she couldn't recognize it until it was named. And I just think, like, what for you, like, what do you want? What are your dreams going into this next season? You now have 2 kiddos, you're navigating, I mean, who knows, the end of a baseball career, the beginning of
Mhm.
something else amazing, but there's got to be your part in it too. Like, your dreams don't just go away just because you're the wife, right? So, yeah. And if we get cut off again, I'll just resend a link.
Okay, sounds good. I think going into the new year, we've talked about things that we're hopeful for, obviously, as a family and as a couple. And actually, the verse we've been reciting around lately is a verse our son came home and taught us with hand motions, I must say. And it's so simple. And I even like looked it up because I'm like, is this really how simple it is? But he's like, always be thankful to God. Ephesians 5:20. And I find myself like hour by hour taking a deep breath and being like, always be thankful to God.
Mm.
Like, how is that going to lead me in this hour, in this moment? And with having a baby who's not really sleeping all the way through the night, I have found that speaking those words out loud, the Spirit of God is within us. And like you said, God asks us to ask Him of things, to name it. And my first ask is obviously like in the night, like, put this baby to sleep, please. I need rest.
I need
But
rest.
but God fills me up. Like I wake up and I'm ready for another day. Did I
Mm.
wake up at 12 and 4 a.m.? Yes. But in those moments of rocking her at night, I feel truly so grateful to God because I also know last year I was asking for her by
Mm.
name from Him. I was begging Him for a child. And He gave me that promise. He gave me a promise, and then He delivered. And that's not always how it works. You know, it's not always ask, receive, literal.
Mm.
But that was a time in my life where He did. And He has continued to give me this strength to keep going. And so I think that for me in the new year, I just want to keep my mind on gratitude and leaning into His strength to keep going. And like for my personal dreams, I used to be a fitness instructor. It's something that really fills me up. I love being able to specifically have a room full of women who I know have carved out this time for themselves. Their phones are off, and I know that they're probably walking into that room heavy, worried, anxious, sometimes celebrating, hopeful, um, sometimes just like need a place. Honestly, I've seen women cry through a workout, and I am like, do that
Yeah.
because we are connected, our body, our spirit, our heart, our mind. God knitted all of these things together to work together. If tears are flowing as you're moving your body, I think that's cathartic. I think that's God working something out of you, in you, through you, letting you feel it. Maybe it's your only 50 minutes to yourself that week, not even that day, that week, especially going into the holidays, like maybe that month. And I love that is something that like my purpose statement is I love to lead women, and I love to lead them in honest truth, discernment, but ultimately pointing them back to the truth of God, back to the truth of the gospel of Jesus. And when they're in that room, I do love that I get that opportunity to, maybe I'm not directly always reciting scripture talking about God, but I love that I can care for the women in that room during that time. And it's something I'm hopeful that I can carry into the baseball season, that I can teach Pilates in some capacity, because right now that is something that is a dream of mine. I love that I get to do that. It fills me up. And I get to, I've been saying, I think if you have something that keeps you social, sweating, and smiling, like you're good. Like I think God meets you in all of those ways too. And so for me, teaching keeps me smiling, social, and sweating. Like
Yeah.
realistically, you want other things in your life, but
That
I
covers it.
have a 5-year-old and a 7-month-old. Like
Yes.
if one thing checks off all the boxes, that does so much for me. And God doesn't call us to be martyrs as mothers. He does
Mhm.
not call us to be martyrs. We're called to be mothers, and we have to take care of ourselves, or what flows out of our cup is not healthy. And
Mhm.
we want to nurture our child, not scar them for life and spike
Mhm.
their cortisol. And we need to regulate ourselves. And so I love that I have that opportunity. And I am hoping that wherever God sends us for baseball this year, that I can do that in some capacity. And I just love that intersection of worshiping God with your body.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of
I love
where
it.
we are as a family. I feel like we said for years, like myself and as a family, like we're in a season of tending to the soil, which is tedious. You have to wait for the soil to be really right before you plant. And then we've planted things, and we've been hopeful that they will grow, and that it will bear good fruit. But we've been waiting for the harvest, it feels like. I
Mhm.
love the analogy of the farmer, cliche being from Missouri, but like you have to wait for the harvest. And that waiting season can be weird,
Mhm.
and things can come up.
Mhm.
And so I'm hopeful that we're entering a season of harvest and bounty. and overflow so we can continue to be generous, continue to grow in positive ways, and just continue our journey of like sanctification with Christ so that we can, like I said, like whatever's flowing out of our family is goodness and mercy. Um, and I think that's just like where we find ourselves. It's where I find myself. Like, despite having a 7-month old, I feel really called that God wants me to like shut up in certain rooms where there's a lot of wisdom and speak up in other rooms where there's youth. I feel like I'm right in that age in between where like I have wonderful mentors and sages and women in baseball who have older kids and have gone through this. And then there's this young generation of baseball wives and girlfriends and fiancés coming up who this is all foreign. And so I'm really excited going into the new year. This is a place I haven't felt like I've been in a really long time. It's hard to look back and compare. I just really love where we are right now. I feel present and hopeful and joyful, and that's a really good feeling when you've wanted that, I think, in seasons of struggle where you're like, God,
Yeah.
when?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh,
Are you, if you don't mind
I'm
me?
32.
32. Okay. So I'm 39. Um, but I can say, like, I just think you have such a good head on your shoulders. And I just love how, um, one, you're so just open and bold with your faith, because I know that when you are when you have been given a platform to speak on things, people aren't always kind or encouraging of those things. And that can often like deter us where, um, I don't want to ruffle feathers, or I don't want to be the problem for someone to have a bad day or whatever it is. But uh, the world needs women like you that are bold about what you believe in, and that you do it with like joy and light. And so I think people are just drawn to you naturally. And I think that is on purpose, for a purpose. And I don't know specifically, the stories of whose lives you will touch. I know one day in heaven you'll get to meet all the people, but I do just want to encourage you and say, just keep doing what you're doing, because like Pilates, fitness, all of that, I have to believe that not every person that walks into those rooms are in the Word or in a church, or heck, they have never, maybe not even been introduced to Jesus yet. But when we live unapologetically authentic in who we believe in and what we believe, like that, that is appealing. And so
Mm.
I just pray ahead of time just for you and those conversations. And yeah,
Well,
just
thank you. That's so sweet. Thank you so much. Yeah, I
yeah,
think I've made a lot of mistakes, and that's been helpful. Helpful, hurtful, but helpful. And hopefully not too hurtful to others, but definitely I think that, like you're saying, like too, with social media, I feel like my age is right there in the middle too, with like we understand what brands like care about and think about, but at the same time, I feel grateful to be married to someone who also doesn't care about that. Like, I always make jokes. His social media looks like we just met, got engaged, got married, had a baby. And like, I have different hair in every picture. It looks like he has like 6 wives. And I'm like, don't look at his Instagram. And like, it's just not, it's hilarious. Like, he doesn't even log in. He doesn't use any social media in season, which I think is a blessing too, because it kind of turns off some of that, like what
yeah,
people think about you. But I've made mistakes, and I've made mistakes with my social media too. But yeah, I think that we live um, in a world that gets defined by culture sometimes, and culture can feel like you're in the club or out of the club. And
mm-hmm.
so with like that, ministry is definitely, like I mentioned, I was the oldest daughter of a pastor. I grew up in the church.
Mm-hmm.
And ministry has just kind of walked hand in hand with my life. And I didn't think of myself as being in ministry
Mm-hmm.
until really the last few years and getting the opportunity to also walk couples through Tommy John specifically,
Yeah.
and have people stay. When we lived in Texas, we had people stay with us since Meister is down there. And God opened that door because I remember at PAO saying, like, "Oh, we have this house in Texas and we have these guest rooms, and I just feel like they need to be used. I
Yeah.
thought we were going to have all these kids by now." And God filled the rooms. And so I think that he meets you always. You just kind of have to be open and willing. But yeah, I think that something has been a huge blessing has been PAO, and specifically like the increased women in
Mhm.
those seasons where John was rehabbing and I maybe wasn't
Yeah.
in community. But that is like one of my hopes as well, is as we go to other organizations that we can be the ones who, like, I will say, like, I know one of the first questions that John would ask when he was talking to organizations too was like, do you have a chaplain? And
Mhm.
not at all to condemn, but just like, how can we get plugged in with this team and that team? And because like with Baltimore, we had wonderful chaplains. We had a strong Bible study. We watched it grow. Like in
Yeah.
PAO, I think there was two Baltimore couples and we watched it go to like 20. Like,
Wow.
like people were calling us like the mini Cardinals of like back in the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like there were
Incredible
so
learnings.
many Orioles. And so that was so cool to watch like God plant those seeds and see like it grow. And then obviously you get spread out to all these other teams, and it's this wonderful community that exists within the baseball community that I'm so grateful for. That also takes away a lot of anxiety, honestly, of going to other teams. Is like it feels like you're really just one call away from knowing someone or
Yeah.
um, meeting someone. But that was really cool in Cleveland too. Was like we came kind of towards the end of it, but they had their first ever Faith and Family Day
Oh,
this last season, and so John got to be a part of that, which was so cool
so
because
cool.
just not that long ago, I think that was in 20. I'm trying to remember if it was 2023. I think it was 2023 or 24. Baltimore had their first family Faith and Family night as well, and
Okay.
so we've now been able to see that happen on two organizations. I'm
Two
like, that's so
organizations.
cool.
Yeah.
And Cleveland this last year, even like, I mean, once again, like you never know if we go back to Cleveland, like I'm saying, maybe by the time this comes out, we know where we
Yeah.
are.
You'll know.
God knows.
Yeah.
Like, but it is cool to know that like that is one way you can just so tangibly have an impact on maybe one person. And we're fan minded. Like we
Mhm.
know what it's like to be a hardworking family and your dollars matter. And so we just feel so grateful when families come out to something like that. And I mean, I really like will say something I admire of my husband. He's very quiet in the things he does. And I remember, and it like chokes me up every time, but I think it was the year after his dad passed. There was like a video I just happened to see on social media of him going up to a dad and a son at the game and at a game in Boston and giving them a ball.
Oh,
And knowing that he saw that and that kind of became a quiet thing he did throughout that season was he saw like a dad and a son, he'd go give them a ball. um
that's
and it's just like, how God uses your pain for a purpose, and
Mhm.
I love that. There's opportunities to do that, and we just, yeah, I think it's cool when you can do something like that with fans and they can see, a dad or a mom can say like, look, son, like you can totally be a good person, have convictions, have a family, be a dad, and like also be doing your childhood dream. It's possible.
Mhm.
It's so possible. And John's testimony and his story in itself, like he tells often, like he loves to say, like, I was never supposed to be here. I was never supposed to be here. And it's like, but God knew.
Yeah.
And so you just never know what that can do for a little kid in the stands or a mom or a dad. Um, and so that is a hope of mine as well as we move forward, is like that there would be kingdom impact wherever we are, whether that's the minor leagues or Japan or Mexico or the middle of the country, the East Coast, West Coast, North, South, wherever God takes us, that like we would keep in mind He's the reason why we're
Yeah.
going wherever we're going.
Mm.
And so that's just something that we're looking forward to this year. And it's even cooler when you get to have kids that get to witness it too.
Hmm.
Um, our son is definitely at that age where he's noticing things and taking notes of things, and that's good and bad. Dad being on the road's harder,
Hmm.
but he also cherishes the time with him a lot more. And I think it's really cool when you have organizations that value
Yes.
the father and the dad too.
Yeah.
So we're
Yeah.
really grateful.
I love that. Well, please keep me posted on
I
wherever
will.
God plants you guys, and hopefully by the time this is posted, we'll know, and so I can update. I'll update it. But thank you just so much for your time and sharing your story. And I know that it'll change many lives. And so thanks for being vulnerable. You are amazing, and I'm praying
Thank
for you
you.
and cheering for you guys.
Thank you so much, Bree. Thanks for having me.
All right, bye.
Bye.